guys? Don't you sometimes just get tired of game studios desensitizing us to all the violence we're forced to commit in most modern games? Don't you wish for something more wholesome to spend your time with? Me neither, but come on, it's Epic Mickey. Say what you will about the original, I loved it. I mean, yeah, it had its problems, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable game, as well as very imaginative. And I actually reviewed it over a year ago, and believe it or not, I consider it to be my first good review. Not my first great review, that was Uncharted, but my first good review. I actually have a lot of nostalgia towards it. And so while Epic Mickey 2 hasn't exactly been in my field of vision, it's been in the peripheral area. So, let's take a look at Epic Mickey 2.
I think everyone who played the original Epic Mickey can agree that the story really carried that game. Not that the gameplay was bad at all, although some people certainly thought that, but it did certainly lack originality, aside from the brush gimmick. Like I said, a great game, but there's definitely a lot for the sequel to improve upon. But before we get to that, let's cover the story. Well, it's good to know that they kept the tradition of opening up the game with a cool cinematic, although this time it's a lot simpler. Put simply, the wasteland is torn apart by an earthquake. Okay, so apparently the wizard put tectonic plates in his model of the wasteland. Dick. Anyway, the Mad Doctor of all people flies on down and explains to everyone that he is good now.
Friends, I stand before you a changed man. I've seen the error of my ways and now I've got a plan. I'm not here to conquer wasteland. I've tried all that before. I'm here to repair the magic land I truly do adore.
This amusement park has been constructed entirely out of a sense of remorse for my past transgressions, and is in no way associated with any sort of evil plot or premeditated misdeeds.
Oh, and yes, this game is fully voiced over.
Hallelujah! I mean, finally! We're off to a pretty good start, I'd say.
The voice acting is really good, but maybe it's just me, but some characters just sound stoned off their ass.
You know Adele in the camera shop? Yeah, she's doing some sort of project. She could probably use some help.
Hey Mickey, the quake collapsed this train station into, well, that. It's a mess, right? Pulling everything out again is gonna take some muscle. And muscle isn't really my thing, you know? Think you can stretch the train station out?
Mickey is called back into the wasteland because we need a sequel, and from there, the figurative story balloon just runs out of air. I'm not even sure what the heck I was supposed to be doing 80% of the time. I mean, I guess Mickey's there to check up on the Mad Doctor, but the Doctor stays good. So, Mickey's just here to help with the cleanup? What an enthralling plot. I guess I wouldn't be so annoyed, but like I said, Epic Mickey had a really interesting story and a point. Mickey needed to get back home. Here, an earthquake happened. I can't exactly unhappen the earthquake, so what do you want me to do, game? Do you have any use for me now that I've forked over $50?
But is this really a huge problem? Let's look at the gameplay. Oh my god, it's the exact same gameplay, but worse.
As I said, the gameplay of Epic Mickey 1 isn't exactly what you could call stellar. It got a little repetitive and there could have been more creativity. Being a sequel, you'd think that the programmers would have addressed at least one of these grievances, but no, it's the same deal as Epic Mickey 1, so we have decent platforming, but the environments you'll be in are nowhere near as memorable. It's been a year since I played the original Epic Mickey, but I still remember quite a few of the levels in that game, but here, I vaguely remember a Western-style level, and then there was this one level that was pretty much a diorama of the original Epic Mickey.
Go figure!
But that's it. The 2D sections return, but aside from being able to use paint in some of them, jack all has changed, and the camera hasn't been improved at all. I admittedly was in the group that didn't mind the camera too much, but if you did, the fun continues with that. The combat's the same as well, and admittedly, I really enjoyed the combat in the first game. Not that there was much to it, but great concepts can be simple, so there's really no reason why I shouldn't enjoy this combat either. Unless they introduced a co-op partner with dipshit AI that you need to rely upon if you want to kill certain enemies.
But we all know that's not the... Let's get this over with.
This was touted as the selling point of the game, the multiplayer. It's in the title, for crying out loud. Only problem is that this is a single player game at heart, so most people will want to play it on their own. And God, Oswald is both pointless and just a pain in the ass to control. Oswald doesn't have a brush, but rather an electric emote that can be used to turn stuff on. But he usually won't do this automatically. You have to prompt him with the minus button when you're playing as Mickey. But that's pretty unresponsive if Oswald isn't at the exact correct distance between you and what he's supposed to interact with. And sometimes he cannot even interact with the electric panel, but you think that he's just doing his unresponsive shtick, so you keep hitting minus, but you get no results. And then minus doesn't even work in combat. You see, there are enemies that Oswald has to take out with his remote, but getting him to do it, you have absolutely no control over at all. And that's just a bitch. But how's the multiplayer itself? Admittedly, it's fun as hell to knock Oswald around with the spin move for sure. But it's overall pretty tacked on. There's very little for Oswald to do, especially during boss fights. So why include it, especially considering that the co-op AI sucked? Since I'm on the subject of boss fights, the original Epic Mickey had the choice of either defeating your opponent with thinner or befriending them with pain. I'm genuinely curious, can you befriend any of these boss fights? Any! I sure as hell couldn't, and not for lack of effort. Can someone please tell me? Anyway, look, the rest of the game is unmemorable, so why should the bosses be any different? I forgot pretty much all of them 5 minutes after I finished them. Epic Mickey really nailed player choice. You didn't pick the asshole option just because you wanted to see what happened. You picked it because the chivalrous option was too hard and tedious for you. Yet you felt like a dick when you saw the consequences. I still have trouble sleeping after setting that pirate up for rejection, and that shit was over a year ago. But good news! Epic Mickey 2 takes place in an alternate reality where you did all the nice choices. And there's a side quest from the same pirate I screwed over.
My chance for redemption can be seized, guys!
So pretty much you need to buy this pirate a giant pearl and use it to open a treasure trove to impress the father of his true love. So I forked over $1,000 to buy the pearl, found a spot to put it, and marched back to the pirate ready for his thank yous to assuage my conscience.
Oh, my love is gone.
Back on track, the moral system really isn't that much in place anymore. You can go through the vast majority of the game without any choices to make. There are some side quests to do if you want the good ending, but by the point they came available, I was already so bored of this game I couldn't be bothered. Final nail in the coffin, short ass game. I mean, Christ, the original took 13 hours to beat, skipping quite a few side quests. Epic Mickey 2 slides in at 6 hours, albeit barely touching any side quests at all. But come on, Junction Point, you really hauled ass in shoveling this out in time for the holidays, didn't you? Don't deny us, it's obvious when you look at this game's ending. It's so anticlimactic. And then they have the balls to hint at a sequel. I mean, wow, that's pretty presumptuous on their part, considering they didn't improve one goddamn gameplay element from Epic Mickey 1. I'd like to say right here that I do not hate this game. I'm even hesitant to call it bad, because the only broken part of this game is the co-op AI, and that doesn't give anything more than slight annoyances. but God, what a disappointment. Look, the gameplay of the first game, while far from perfect, was pretty darn good. Otherwise, the fantastic story and presentation would not have been enough to salvage it, as gameplay has and always will come first in video games. And despite some dumb design choices here and there, especially with Oswald's AI, the gameplay shows it can still be mildly enjoyable even without the great story, memorable environments, and quite a lot less challenge. For my final recommendation, let's say this: if you did not love the original, don't even bother with this game, you'll hate it. If you're like me and thought that the first game was flawed but a really unique and must-play game, use caution, don't play full price. I'm gonna return it for sure. In fact, try not to pay for it at all. Borrow it, wait for it to go on a really low sale. Trust me, you can wait. On the other hand, if you thought Epic Mickey was a damn near flawless game, and think that most of the reviews complaining about the camera and controls were full of shit, and you've probably left me a couple colorful comments at this point, go for it. You'll probably really enjoy it.
You can go! I can only keep this up for so long!
Sorry.